Welcome back, everyone. This is Shadow J. So let's go back to not trading on Vulcan, number 10. Alright, so last time, what ended up happening was the got all the hardware set up for the Stirling cooling. You know, all the pumps are there, all the devices are there, the IC10 is there. The code was started, and I got a preliminary setup for the cooling. No. The back pressure regulator. Like after the water comes out, then I got that working so that it empties it out. I tried to test it, but then I forgot that one of the outputs was set up for one of the outputs was set up for the pump, which I thought I was reading, which I was not. So I thought that it didn't work, but it actually would work if I had it all set up correctly. So yeah, this actually comes at a great time because it is what, day 24. I am making oxygen. I can breathe in here. Well, I'm down to 5.5 liters of water approximately, and my stationeer has to drink. Eating is not a problem. Let's just be honest. Eating is nowhere near a problem. I have a literal field of potatoes up there. So yeah, the main point is to make her water, cool it down so that I can keep drinking some nice, fresh, cool water. Underneath this dome, under a tree. No, not really. That's SpongeBob. But SpongeBob needs the drink of water. But basically, under this dome where there's like a lot of potatoes. So, terrible joke. It's been a while since I've seen SpongeBob. I don't like the new ones. I like the older ones when they were actually funny. There's a point where the jokes and cartoons became more crude than what I grew up used to. I mean, look, I grew up with Looney Tunes. If that's aging myself really badly. And well, the annoyance that anyways, let's just not get political about it because there's a lot of political stuff regarding old stuff because they really were not afraid to offend literally anybody or anything. So yeah, enough about that. So let's go back to this logic. So let's go to programming, something that can't get you canceled. Although it'd be kind of weird if coding gets people canceled. Anyway, so back to this. Stationeers, yeah, Stationeers. Okay, so the whole reason why I needed that, why this whole thing is set up, is that I want to be able to cool down a liter of water every time this thing cycles at night, and I think that 4 stirlings is enough to do that with the Vulcan nighttime. So that's what these 4 steps or states setting. I really don't. I gotta look up the right word for this. But that's what this is for. That's what it's all programmed. You have the idle where it's waiting till it can do something. The pump in so that it can pump in exactly 60 moles of water in so that it can cool it down or more. I think I have it to 50 at this point because I just don't have a lot of water. Then the stirlings cool it down, and then finally they get pumped out where the water gets condensed into my water system at about 200 Celsius. Now, before you panic, I had thought about that. There's a reason why I pressurized it with CO2, and that's to provide a thermal buffer. And that thermal buffer is what's going to prevent the water pipe from going from a lovely 20, 30 Celsius to like, what, 80? Because, I mean, if you think about it, I have, what, 5 liters of water in there. If I introduce 1 liter of super hot water, then, 1/6 of the temp is scalding hot. The other 5/6 is normal. It's gonna creep up, and that's what the extra CO2 is for. It's an extra additional buffer. Like, what if that pipe has like 40 liters of water, then dropping 1 liter of 200 Celsius water is like a drop in, it's like a literal drop in the ocean. It will barely change temperatures for that. So, anyways. So the main things about this is I want to make sure that the pipe has enough pressure before it actually tries to pump in water. Otherwise, it's going to turn on the turbo volume pump at 100 liters or so and run for a long time and just basically eat all my power. So I don't want to have that. I'm already I literally my renewable power is literally stirlings. I don't want to stress those more than they have to. And I define my target for water at 50 moles. That's not even a liter, but I gotta start small and slowly adjust it up for when I actually have plenty of oxygen to burn. And so the idle step is fairly simple. If I have pressure, then I'll be able to start pumping it in. And I'm really estimating that 250 kilopascals is what is the minimum for having the amount of water. I haven't really done any scientific experiments to know that that is enough. But the thing is, I want to have at least enough pressure that I do have 50 moles of water inside that pipe network. So yeah, that's a thing. And so this is the part where you have to really step and check and step, uh, check all these things out. Oh yeah, and then I actually had the wrong output there. This is part of the whole testing everything. So this is now nothing to say against the outside editors and stuff like that, but this is kind of really why I like to do the more complicated programming in game. And that's so that I can have the feedback to see where I went wrong. Because everyone makes mistakes. Even I make mistakes when programming this. I mean, you saw that in some other videos where I made mistakes with programming. I mean, the one in Trade Ropa where Essa was having fun decorating stuff while I was fighting of an airlock for literally 40 minutes. That was a sad state of affairs for me. I spent that long on an airlock. But that's why I like to work on this here. Like, even though I have an idea for how it should work, I can make mistakes. Like right there. I was loading the pressure for the Stirling pipe and not the steam pipe. That's not going to work. Anyway, so if I have the right pressure, I'll go to step one. And that's where I basically want to pump in stuff. And this is the whole PV equals nRT formula. Like, I really don't do this often, but I wanted to pump in enough water to start cooling. So, you know, the thing about that is I'm used to pumping it in exactly, like because the pipe is pure 100%. So I had to kind of think about how am I going to do this when the ratio is not 100%? Like if half of it is steam, how can I do this? And I'm really trying to future proof this because, once I send the rocket out and bring back oxygen and I get traders out, what if I want to buy the 800 Celsius steam from a gas trader and I just push it into this pipe system? I want to cool down exactly, you know, 2 liters of water. If I want to do that, then how am I supposed to account for the fact that the ratio is no longer, what, 30% or 33%, whatever it comes out? And so, yeah, this is probably one of the few times I actually start to kind of do something different that I haven't done. Like, I haven't actually done that before. Try to calculate the difference. So, I do basically the same thing. Do I have the right moles of water? So I found out how much water is inside the Stirling pipe section, subtract from my targets, and then basically use that for the whole PV equals nRT calculations. So I grab, what would be temperature, pressure, do the whole V equals nRT over P, and make sure that I got the right analyzers in there. Without the right analyzers, you can't do the correct work. Temperature, pressure, and then ratio steam. Yeah, I realized that I couldn't do that. I needed the ratio steam. I think I was going to cut it down, but I mean, that's not saying that the what's in the Sterling will be clean either. Hmm. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm not very I'm looking back at what I'm doing and I'm trying to make sense of what I'm doing as well. Like there's no like I probably could have talked myself through it as I was making that, but something new definitely takes space. So yeah. So recalculating V. I think I was trying to decide how does the ratio steam play into play here. Like I can't just move. I was wondering if I couldn't just move that setting because that setting works for pure 100% steam. So I know I need that setting, but I was trying to figure out how. How does it work? Trying to make sense of it. I think I was trying to find out what Argas, just to make sure that Argas was the right thing. I completely forgot that I used that a couple episodes ago. Well, to be fair, a couple episodes ago, that was about 2 weeks ago, roughly. Since the previous episode was the patch, when the patch happened, there was about 2, maybe 3 weeks of time between, so sometimes memory is not very good as to what I did, what worked right. So I gotta do all sorts of little things to get it right. So here is where I decided to use the ratio of steam. I figured that I'd give this a try. So like if I needed 50 liters to get the targets, and there's only, and if the ratio is 50%, for example, then I would need double. That was my mindset. Then I would need double the volume rate to get exactly what I wanted. So that's what I decided to do. It made sense to me, and I wanted to see it in practice to see how close it was. And even if I overshot it a little bit, that's fine. I can handle an overshoot. I can handle it overshooting. So I needed to do the branch out condition. So I wanted to keep pumping liquids in until it hits the desired setting. Let's see. Multiply, get the water. Yep. Water. Yep. 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 Yeah. If it's below the target, if the total is below the target, we go right back to, well, you go to the end. Next step, it'll recalculate. Otherwise, move to step 2. But I canceled that because I don't want it to go to the next step because I haven't programmed that yet. So, what was it not doing anything? And come to find out, I forgot to turn the output on. It's not gonna do anything if there's no out. If it was never told to come on. 1. There we go. So I decided I might as well make it go to the next step and make sure that it turns off at the very next thing. And I figured I might as well start doing the programming for that. So for the cooling part, I wanted to get cooled, cool down to temperature. But I decided I don't want to let the steam get below 150 Celsius because that is the point that the pollutants will condense. Keep in mind that I never ran this through filters. I never filtered out the gunk. Never filtered out pollutants. It won't filter out nitrous, which means that those two gases, which can condense with water, I have a real potential issue of having them condense with it and winding up in my water pipe. And I can't have that. However, when I take a look into phase change, they don't condense above 150 Celsius. It's more like 155 is the upper end. But rounding 150 Celsius. So if I cool down the water to 175 Celsius, it will allow it to cool down. It will allow it to condense. And when it condenses, only liquid water comes out, nothing else. And then I can dump the rest out back into the atmosphere. Not like I need it. I'm already grabbing all the CO2 and volatiles and oxygen I could want from plants. So that's the two things with the stirlings. So number one, they must turn on at nighttime, which means less than 150 Celsius. And then number two, I opted for 200 Celsius. When they cool down to 200 Celsius, that's when it's gotten cooled enough that I'll go to the next step to get my water out. And this is why I needed it to be nighttime, because I need to make sure that it does that. But yeah. This is the complicated part of the code. This is, back with the previous conversation about the whole PLC type coding. Like, I I want it to only execute specific sections of code based on where it is. This is something that I kind of learned to do for my work to kind of make sure that the program only executes specific things based on a register that I've defined as the step. And so long as I know what step it is, I have an idea for what should be happening based on the code. It helps me to troubleshoot it and fix issues where I may have put the wrong things down. And it's not something I like to program all at once. I definitely like to see, and that's why you saw me save, because I want to make sure I didn't go backwards on anything. So it's pumping water in. So that means that it should stop pumping in when there's at least 50 moles of water in there. And here I am trying to make more steam because I figure, well, it hasn't hit that point yet, right? And it kind of confirmed that it. There. Yep, you saw that, right? It kind of confirmed that it never quite made it because I didn't have enough pressure, and then suddenly, it did. So now it should be cooling down. It said that step where it should be cooling down, so the stirlings didn't come on. Why? I think I forgot to do something related to that. So I removed the initialization steps so that I didn't go through it. So, went to cooldown. They should be cooling down. The stirling should be coming on. So now I'm checking the gas sensor. Yep. Gas sensor's there. It should be seeing that. So SLT, start on, R0, it's timer. So I'm like, okay, it's turning on the outputs for the stirlings. They should be getting turned on. So why are they not getting turned on? So I come down here and I see, oh, I never put an output to have them turn on. See, that's how I can use what I've created to understand whether I even programmed it correctly. So now, once I added that, hooray, the stirlings are on, making 8 kilowatts of power per stirling until it cooled down enough. And now I'm not making 8 kilowatts of power. But I am able to see just how quick it's working. And then I see the Vulcan sun rising, which means that I gotta wait until the next night to see if it'll actually do the exit correctly. Didn't quite get it fast enough. But hey, it at least turned them off. So, yeah. So overall, test is not conclusive yet. Once again, I forgot to remove that. So I figured, well, if I can process that out, I can get all of the volatiles out and hopefully reclaim that canister. So you see, that's the tough part about this. It's still extremely manual because my system really needs the oxygen to make fuel to allow that to work, to make constant streams of water. You know, the last hurdle is making sure that everything works right in this end, the stirlings. Oh. So I figured, well, might as well start thinking about haste alloy. So my thought frame was, well, I didn't get my water. What can I do? Well, harm suit needs haste alloy, so maybe I should just go get some stuff to make haste alloy. Everything else looks fine. You know, I have air that's doing its thing, fuel. It's hot outside. I'm trying to get fuel into the H2 combustor. Might as well go mining. That is such low pressure inside that tank that I'm not really pumping a lot of pressure. It does feel like a waste of water. I mean, power. I'm on the last little bits now. Just getting that. Ugh. But yeah. Sorry, I'm having moments where I'm trying to figure out what to talk about. Like, I'm looking back at this system. I'm trying to wonder if I could have done some things better. Truth be told, I think I got it working. And not entirely sure how I could have made that better. It might be something that if I had another person kind of look at it and reorganize things a bit, it probably could look better. Because as it is right now, it just looks like a bunch of random machines and piping and stuff. They achieve a purpose, but that's the best that I can say. They achieve a purpose. I believe I wanted to make sure there was 50 mole or close to 50 moles of oxygen, or enough that could make 50 moles of steam before I went out mining again. First had to refresh. And also to make sure things are charging. Without a doubt, I think this is around the point also where I realized that the small batteries are kind of a nuisance. Like, having to charge them and run out of power for them at inopportune moments is getting kind of annoying. Oh, wait, I don't think I go mining just yet. It might be a while before I go mining. Yeah, that's right, because I wanted to try to get as much stuff done as I could without mining. So, just base upkeep at this point. Trying to look at the harm suit stuff. Like, I figure I might as well start printing it out. Like, I know I need the haste alloy. But I really, really do want to try it out. I do want to try the harm suit just to see how well it does. This is before I did any testing, so my mindset was I really need to kind of figure out how this works, and I might as well get it printed out so that I could try to understand it. So, yeah. That was what was running through my mind. I wanted to print out the suits, print out the stuff, and try to get an understanding of it. Now, I didn't actually do any of the room cycling thing. That'll actually be the next part where I actually tackle this. So for the most part, I think if the room has over 60 moles of oxygen, I might as well drain it down to 55 and then leave it alone. And so then the next thing I wanted to try was to see if hydroponic trays actually block sunlight or grow light from the trays underneath them. So that's what I wanted to do. So I noticed that I had light intensity up there for the potato maxed out. The one underneath it still had the same light, so I'm like, huh, interesting. What if I build a row of these? Will I see any problems? So I go and look for more potatoes. I have some spare seeds. Realized probably shouldn't do that yet. I really don't understand why I was concerned about that. Like, how am I going to get water? How am I going to get potatoes? Is this actually something that'll work? Water my potatoes. They're thriving. I'm like, huh. That's weird. That is the weirdest looking thing. To have potatoes floating in the sky like that. Over other potatoes. But it looks like it'll work. So, I figured might as well plant some more potatoes up here. Those extra hydroponics trays I made, I might as well put some use to them. And then I see, oh no, frozen water, that's not good. I forgot about phase change. I was surprised that the potatoes were okay with that. And then I see, oh no, water's too cold. I guess they were not okay with that. How do I fix that? I opted well. The only way I can think of fixing it is to pipe it up with liquids. That ladder is in an awkward spot because every now and then I grab hold of it when I least expect it. But I am enjoying the fact that I can take off my suit and let hygiene recover. See, this was the whole thing about why I usually try to pressurize my printers so that I can actually work suitless and let hygiene naturally recover while things print. Just why I struggled a little bit more on this playthrough because I didn't pressurize my printers. I instead pressurized just a tiny section of my base, aka that one little living hut. That's all I pressurized for my hygiene, which has the problem of I can't do anything other than eat and drink and sit in there, twiddle my thumbs, which isn't great. More potatoes. But at least here I can actually make food, drink water, stare at my potatoes, ponder life's decisions, and wonder what the heck can I do to spend time while I'm hygiening. I was also debating whether I should just build an entire extra 2 or 3 rows of hydroponics trays and fill them with potatoes. Because that is a lot of extra potatoes. That could be a lot of extra air. So I wasn't sure that that would be a good idea. Drinking more water. Decreasing my ever dwindling water supply. It really is getting tense. Like, the infrastructure's there. It is there. It's just I haven't fully tested that system. Yeah, there's a lot of dead space of me just trying to figure out what to do. Because I think I remember now why I didn't go for the astraloy yet. I didn't want to leave to go get astraloy and then come back and miss the stirlings doing its cooling. So I think I opted to stay at the base, air out a bit, and try to do stuff in the base. I think I remember making that small battery because I just needed to have batteries. Making sure that even my labeler has a battery because it's just kind of annoying. And I finally decide maybe I should just invest in the power transmitter. So the thing about the power transmitter, I mean, there's nothing really wrong with it. It charges your wireless batteries and it does a really good job at that. So long as you're in the base, it'll charge up your wireless batteries. It cuts a little bit of power to do so, but it at least ensures that your tools are not going to run out of batteries while you're working around the base. You know, like if you're using your angle grinder a lot or your hand drill a lot, having the Omni transmitter charging your tools at least prevents you from just using the tool, swapping batteries between two tools because one ran out of batteries. Keep using the tool, and then if you forget to charge them, then you go out with the big job, and then you realize that all your tool batteries are dead. You know, and that's what I do like about the Omni transmitter. You know, if you do that, if you make one and you stick near your base where it can be of use to you, then you at least can be, rest assured that your wireless batteries are charging near it. It is a good quality of life. So wireless transmitters there doesn't do anything without the batteries. The view is actually pretty good. I'm kind of glad I built that. So if I were to do this on Venus, I was trying to decide, how much worse would this be on Venus? Whoops, trying to kill myself again. Not to say that I really want to do a brutal no trade run on Venus. I really don't want to. I did it one time. I did use the AC config that Elmo posted in a video. Let's talk about cooling. I think it was the title. I did use that config. It works really well. If you're on the Discord, you know my opinion of it, and my opinion of it is yes, it is a valid configuration. I don't like that it bypasses one of the efficiencies to kind of make cooling a challenge. Um, it is like I said, it is a valid config because it allows you to do bypass stats. But it does its job too well, way too well at what it does, especially since the phase change update cut the pipe volumes by a factor of 10. It really allows that to do its job extremely well. Because normally the biggest thing holdout will be the pressure efficiency. Pressure efficiency means that the ACs need at least 111 kPa of pressure in the waste and input pipes to function, which means that you need a 10 times the amount of gas in order for them to work right. Oh, I remember this. This was that was a good advice. I completely forget cardboard boxes exist, and that's a pretty good way to store all my cartridges. But anyway, so the thing with the AC is it takes the input gas some amount. I don't know exactly how much it takes. It moves energy based on the three efficiencies and dumps it in the output. And so, because phase change cut the pipe volumes by a factor of 10, that means you can hit your 111 kPa pressure on those pipes with much less gas. So, if before you needed 10 moles of gas that you could move 14 kilojoules of energy out, that still would have cooled down. It would have cooled down some. But now, after the phase change update, you only need 1 mole of gas to hit that pressure differential. Well, moving 14 kilojoules of energy from 1 mole of gas is 10 times the amount of energy moved compared to 10, which can lead to some really crazy temperature differentials. That's why it works really well to take, 460 Celsius Venusian atmosphere and can cool it down to negative whatever it does, negative 50 Celsius. Well, normally wouldn't have done that. All right, checking on the stirlings. And so yes, I did manage to do the no trade Venus. It was painful, it was harsh, and I did use that config because it is the closest thing to being valid while still getting close to cheesy. Not cheesy yet, but it's very close. But you get the strength of that, because okay, so when you have a cold side that is negative 50 Celsius, you can move a lot of energy into that side, which then the ACs can get rid of that energy really quickly, which makes cooling down Venusian atmosphere trivial. I mean, it still takes a while, because when it's hot, it takes a while for it to do that, because the ACs have to overcome the operational temperature efficiency, which is about 30 to 40% at Venusian temps. But once they get to about 150 Celsius, then they're almost 100%. Alright, so yeah, clean that out. Making steam. This is the point where it cools down. This is what I was interested in seeing. I wanted to make sure that this water comes out and gets pushed out. You can see that I almost have a full liter of water in there. 4.48 liters of water. And I see the Vulcan sun rising. And I see, oh, yeah, perfect. Okay, the worst thing that could have happened was that back pressure regulator would have turned on and spilled all my precious water out. You see that the water pipe got up to like 41 Celsius. So, yeah. And it's getting the next set of water in. I'm watching this water condense out, 211 Celsius. It's turning day. Oh man, just watching this work, that was a huge sigh of relief. So the last thing I needed to watch out for was to make sure that the back pressure regulator emptied its pipe. A lot of things were running through my head at this time. I was watching over everything to see what could be done, what could be made better. truthfully, it's hard to make things work really well because everything is low pressure. There's very little steam to push into the stirlings. There's very little fuel to turn into steam. There's very little oxygen to turn into fuel, and it really is just a matter of everything just needs some time to build up. You know, it's like I'm slowly ramping up on my water production, but that was a success. That right there was a success. The water automation has happened. Ooh. And now it's just a matter of making more water. Hooray! Time to get some haste alloy. Silver, nickel, and cobalt. So off to mining I go. Anyway, so back to the AC thing with Elmo's AC config. So it works really, really well at what it does. It really does kind of trivialize Venus quite a bit. Because the original method is to chain the ACs, you know, what the one AC cools down the next AC, you know, spends 350 watts of power. The efficiency is really low, maybe moves 2 to 3 kilojoules of thermal energy to cool the next AC waste pipe by 50 degrees. You know, you're at 460 and now you're going down to 410. Then the next AC has slightly better operational efficiency, so you know maybe still moves, you know, maybe 2.5 kilowatts to 3.5 kilowatts of thermal energy moved, and it'll cool the next AC another 50 degrees. And so you just basically step it down like that until you finally get to the last AC that can cool, you know, that moves about 7 kilojoules of energy to cool the last AC, the last temperature down to, you know, 20 Celsius. So that's what, 6 to 8 AC, spending 360 watts each. So, you know, if you go with 10 of them, you know, that's, you know, 3.5 kilowatts of power spent. That's what's supposed to make Venus tough. In my opinion, that's what's supposed to make Venus tough. That you're spending close to 5 kilowatts of power constantly just to keep yourself cool. To go from 460 to room temperature. And your system is hard throttled by the highest temperature AC, which is, you know, efficiencies will probably bring it down to like 2 kilojoules of energy for 300 watts. Still better than a wall cooler, mind you. But still better than a wall cooler, but it's bad. It's almost bad. And that's kind of what the whole Elmo config really solves about Venus. So instead of spending close to 3.5 kilowatts of power to move barely 2 kilojoules of thermal energy and you know, to basically be plant growable room temperature, you're spending like 700, 800 watts of power to move close to 14 kilojoules of energy at a time. And you're still reaching negative, you know, like negative 50 Celsius to do that with. It's a huge gain. It's a huge buff, and it's really, really big. Devs have already stated that it is a legitimate setup, but I don't know. It really does scream overpowered for me. Like, but the thing is, you do spend energy with it, so it's kind of one of those like, yeah, I balk at the fact that you can make something so efficient. But the problem with that is that I saw for the community for a while is because that was discovered to be that efficient. That's basically the golden child. That's kind of like this is what we want to achieve as far as very power efficient cooling. And it's extremely hard for anything to get to those levels of efficiency. Like I think that has made some of the game a little stagnant. Like, you know how when stuff gets balanced, when something is that good, it's really hard to not use anything else. Like, you see that in other games, you know, whether it be an action RPG game like Diablo or something like that, or a first-person shooter or something like that, if something just is a clear winner, it's really hard to outdo it. Like if you find something else that outdoes it, that'll be, that's a high bar to clear. Um, the complete cheesiness is the furnace ingot heat deletion thing. And basically what you do there is you just get your normal furnace, probably isolated in some Venusian atmosphere or just a box that you can cool down. And you get some chutes, loop them in a circle from input to output, and throw some lead in there. I want to say lead can be lead ore can become lead ingots at 100 Celsius. I could be wrong. But, the point is that ores degas to cool down the furnace. Ingots, however, will always delete a certain amount of energy when they go through a furnace. So if you get into lead ingots to keep going through a furnace, it'll keep deleting energy, which the box that the furnace is in, or you could actually just use the pipes as well. But let's just say you use the box that it's in. The box the furnace is in will push thermal energy into the furnace because now it's cooler because some heat got deleted. Well, then, the lead ingot comes out, the output goes back into the input, and just, once again, starts deleting more heat, causing the cycle to go. It takes it a while to eventually get cold to where you can start using pollutants for phase change, but it can get down there, is the point. And the thing is, that uses zero power to do that cooling. So for sure, I see that one as more of a cheesy exploit. It may not have the strength of the AC configuration, but the fact that you spend literally zero power, the only material cost is chutes and however much lead or solder or any other alloy you put into it. That basically that is cheesy. Where was I going with this? Oh yeah, that's really why I don't like Venus for that. It is tough. It is hard. But without getting into something that's near cheesy levels of, or almost cheesy levels of territory, it is difficult to come up with a system that works really well. So for the longest time, I was trying to see if I could make a custom AC system that could have a coefficient of performance close to the Elma AC config, and I struggle with that. I think I got close one time, but because some of the energy is spent cooling the liquid and stuff, it's really hard to quantify it. The material cost was insane though. Like so many insulated pipes, utility pipes, counterflows, large direct exchangers. At one point I thought it might be better to just kind of come up with your own custom counterflow and stuff like that, but that became the thing. It's just difficult. It was just difficult. So I tried to innovate it. I don't think I've succeeded. I think I found alternates that could get close, but never quite outdo that AC config. And that could just be my limitations, because I do play this game to enjoy it, sometimes to come up with new ideas. Mostly a hobby. Definitely mostly a hobby. I know I record and show the playthroughs and stuff. I do like to show what is possible. I do like to push some things. That's kind of why I like to show it on the harder difficulties. That yes, it is possible. You don't need to cheese. You don't have to. Yes, cheese is there and available, but you don't have to use cheesy methods to succeed. Even when you make some really stupid limitations, like try not to get red hygiene. Which much that penalty is absolutely inconsequential. It really is inconsequential. But that's kind of why I balk at the thought of like, if I want to do Brutal Venus, I really don't want to do a no trader run. Like, I feel like Vulcan is the right levels of difficult while still being fun. I just don't want to do that on Venus and have to come up with the plan to, if I'm not going to use any cheese, aka the furnace heat deletion, or if I'm not going to use the AC config that's extremely efficient, then that means I need to come up with a good way for power, a good way for stuff, and it's just a hassle and a lot of brain work. But I can guarantee that there will be many deaths for sure. It's Venus. You mine a rock in Venus and it tries to give you a hug and break your suit. That is also going to be extremely annoying. Can you imagine the amount of restarts that would be? Yay, Astroloy. I mean, Hastaloy. Can you imagine the amount of restarts that would be? Oh, hey, I need to get some cobalt and silver so I can make some steel. I got my steel. I got all the stuff to make steel. So let's go get some cobalt. So far, I haven't had an accident. Oh, found some cobalt. Let's get a little bit. Smack. Why, Venus? Why? Restart. Now that we repeat 15 minutes of mining. And then you jumped off a cliff and then just, broke your suit again. It really sucks. Like, I really, with how easy it is to die in Venus, I really don't want to do an Iron Man mode in Venus at all. If I die, I'll restart. Yeah. Problem is, it's so easy to die. Venus does not care about killing you. Actually, Venus has no problem killing you. Alright, so as we saw, I'm printing out the harm suits. Again, this was before I did any tests on the harm suit, so I have zero idea how to expect it to perform. Because I was trying to figure out what my baselines could be. So, how much water did it take? Oh, 5.62 liters. Well, it's okay. I was at 4.5 liters, so I'm 5.62. Which means that I made 2 liters of water approximately. And potatoes. Nah, like if I would ever do a no trade brutal Venus, the one things that I would do is probably come up with a start condition that comes with a box of seeds. Because, and the only reason for that is, while I would like to preserve the difficulty of having just potatoes to provide all my breathing a la Vulcan's 80-something potato plants, uh, do I really want to do 80 potatoes in Venus? It's like, yeah, that's a difficulty, but why? Why would I want to do that? Like maybe, just maybe start with, a potato seed, a wheat seed, a soybean seed, maybe, maybe one of each plant, just one of each plant. Change it so that instead of 3 potatoes, it's 1 potato, 1 soy, 1 wheat. And so that the main goal is I need to make sure that these plants survive. Because if they don't survive, well then, I'm out of luck. And that comes with the whole fact it's like, well, what about Darga ferns and ferns? So let me, when I put it that way, a Darga fern if I remember right, is 4 times as effective as a fern. And a fern is 2 times as effective as a potato seed. So that would mean a Darga fern is 8 potatoes. And I believe, if I remember correctly, it just makes 2 seeds when it's fully grown. If I remember that correctly. So one Darga fern becomes 2, which means that would be, quote, 16 potatoes. Then 2 become 4. 4 times 2 is still 32 potatoes. Yeah, 8 times 4 is 32 potatoes. And then next it will become 8. 8 times 8 is 64 potatoes. So you see, it's still it still will be 3 growth cycles. And the only thing that got easier for that is that I don't need to mine 800 iron to have 80 potato plants. It's just literally 8 plots for 8 Darga ferns to make all the oxygen I need. So yeah, I would cheapen the difficulty in that regard. It definitely would cheapen the difficulty because the hard part would be having the space for 80 plants, spending all the resources to house those plants, and all the logistics of having that many grow lights. But then the thing that makes it also more difficult about Venus is that you have to actually turn your plants into charcoal to get volatiles. And Darga ferns are not going to be the only things. Darga ferns will provide the oxygen aspect. You still need to get the charcoal aspect from something else. And for that, that would be switchgrass. So then it's like, okay, well, so yeah. So if I have 8 Darga ferns to provide all the oxygen, I need to have enough switchgrass going that it can, I can turn it into charcoal. So, you do the same thing. Well, switchgrass, you can't plant the hay. So, if I have one, well, that's 15 charcoal plus a seed. And that one actually scales so much faster because it's like, 1 becomes 2, 2 becomes 4, and then I have 4 switchgrass growing. And that's 15 times 4, that's 60. So that's 60 switchgrass hay to become charcoal. So that's a lot of volatiles. Yeah, it does cheapen the difficulty of the brutal start, but that eliminates the trader aspect. Okay, so what about this? If that's too strong, would an alternate start be to still build a trade platform? However, don't sell any ores or alloys for money. Instead, the only things you can sell for money are the packages and food. What about that instead? Because and I wanted to exclude gases and liquids because um the gas trader, you can buy pollutants for basically money and easy cooling, and most of the times they roll that they want to buy oxygen, and they pay more money than what you spend. You literally buy their oxygen and sell it right back to them. So that's why I wanted to exclude gases and liquids, because there are actually ways to kind of cheese it a little bit. However, food and the packages, you actually have to produce that yourself. So what if it's that instead? No selling ores, no selling alloys, no selling gases. The only things you're allowed to sell are food, the boxes, and things you have to produce for a brutal Venus. So what that means is, everything you can buy anything, anything that can sell. So, if an oxygen trader comes in and I want to just, simplify making, not simplify pressurizing the base, I could just buy their oxygen. However, I have to be careful because I have a very limited ability to make money, extremely limited ability to make money. But if I buy something like tomatoes or wheat or soy, then I can grow different plants, which in turn allows me to be able to sell different kinds of food. Because not every trader is going to buy potatoes from me. Perish the thought. Maybe some are actually going to want tomatoes or pumpkins or whatever. And if I can't grow those, I can't sell those. Oh, time to wrap up. So that's an alternate thought for how to start. Maybe I could make a mod. I could probably do a trader mod so that I can absolutely remove those options for money. Then there is no way to cheat that. You know, it. I can't go. Oopsie, I bought some pollutants and made some money. Maybe that's what I should do. Eh, that might be something to consider. Finding different ways to enjoy this game. That's a thing, especially with the orbits. Oh man, I saw that today. I saw that the orbital stuff. I really wonder how that's gonna be. I don't know. What do you think? Brutal Venus. Trader is allowed, but you're only allowed to sell stuff you've produced. That isn't ores and alloys.
Pressure critical. Oxygen critical.
Oh yeah, this is weird. I don't know why, but the harm suit begins with all its options off.
Cognition low.
I was like, that's a weird way to start. It took me a while. I thought at first that it wasn't working because the coolant tank was empty, but nope. It just began with everything off. It's so weird. Like I'm gonna die putting on this suit. Uh, yep, and that was confirming it there. Cannot put the jetpack on. That was weird. Interesting. No name, coolant. That's some water. It's getting hot. Oh well. Well, this suit won't see any use for about 2 or 3 more episodes. I gotta get a coolant. Again, this was before I did any tests, and I didn't want to use water as my coolant because I don't have enough of that either. Alrighty guys, so this is a good time to begin wrapping up. Or been time to wrap up. Thank you for your time. I know I falaffeled about quite a bit this part. But yeah, next time when we return, it's gonna be more about finishing up how to grab oxygen out of this greenhouse. That's actually honestly the last thing I forgot that needs to be done. But yeah, thank you for your time, and let me know if maybe a Brutal Venus run under those trade conditions will be something worth watching. Thank you, and have a good day. Bye bye.